Hey there guys, I am the Six Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. So as we all know, in the upcoming Warzone Charadon Book 2, Belakor is making his arrival and along with him are coming his disciples. They are getting a brand new Army of Renown style set of rules as well, much like the Death Guard and the Admech got in the first book, and what this does is it allows you to bring a force under the command of Belakor, which is a mixture of both the demonic forces of chaos as well as the heretical chaos space marines. And like we saw with the other armies of renown, you get some cool unique buffs and special rules which come along with the combined list at the cost of having some restrictions imposed upon you as to what exactly you can bring in your list. So let's dive in and take a look at exactly what you can bring in your Disciples of Belakor and what special abilities come along with them. First of all, the restriction to bringing a more combined multi-god list is that Belakor is very fair in who he lets join his merry band. So whilst it seems you could bring, for example, a Khorne demonic unit and a Slaanesh demonic unit, you can't bring two demonic units for a specific god until you've got one from each god. So if you wanted, for example, 2 units of bloodletters, you would need to have a unit of demonettes, a unit of plague bearers, and a unit of horrors, for example, before you could add in that second unit of bloodletters. It's not entirely a huge restriction, as I think most people doing this kind of list may well just go for one big blob of 30 of each of the lesser demons to really fill out that combined god look of the force if that's what they wanted to do and just leave it there, or they may just go for one squad of bloodletters and one squad of demonettes and not go for the full 4 and not get a second squad of each, just if they had something in mind for that specific squad of bloodletters or that specific squad of demonettes. You just have to bear in mind that if you do want to get that second squad of whatever demon it is going to cost you at the very least a few extra minimum squads of demons from the other gods, so it will be an extra bit of points that you're going to have to fork out to get that second squad or that second unit of demons from a specific god like Khorne or Slaanesh. When you do take these units as Belakor's disciples, however, you do not only get access to the Noctic discipline for your Psychers, but you also get access to a brand new unique set of stratagems, in addition to the ones that you'll already have from your Demons or your Chaos Space Marines codexes, and they show off one of these new stratagems, the Legions of Shade. And this seems to be an incredibly powerful, very useful little buff in my opinion. For a meager 1 command point, your units can move through enemy models, and what this means is that for either moving up to get into charge range or actually getting off that charge, you can basically ignore enemy chaff units that are acting as obstacles or roadblocks to protect juicy characters or other units behind them. So if your opponent thought that that squad of guardsmen would protect those tasty basilisks behind them, you can completely negate that and get your troops right into melee with those vulnerable tanks and just completely ruin their day. It really is a very strong stratagem, I think, and for a single command point will let you make an absolute mockery of those armies that like to use cheap throwaway units to protect their more valuable ones from enemy charges. And in addition to that, I really like it because it is very fitting in the whole shadowy, sneaky feel that Belakor and his forces are supposed to bring to the battle. So I have to say, a big fan of this stratagem. I think it will be a brilliant way to mess with your opponent and make them realize during deployment that none of their units are going to be completely safe from your chaotic forces. In addition to the access to the new stratagems, your Disciples of Belakor forces will also get access to a replacement rule. It's not a completely new rule, although, I mean, it is a new rule, but it either replaces the Legion trait if they are Chaos Marines, or their Demonic Loci if they are Demons. And for Marines, this is pretty huge. As we all know by now, the Chaos Legion traits are pretty abysmal across the board. The new trait that they get is the Disciples of Shadow, which allows you to add 1 to all combat attrition tests for the unit, which, I mean, it's not bad, it's something. It lets you stick around on the battlefield for longer and avoid having many or any models run away if you fail a morale test, even when you do get knocked down to half strength. And then more crucially, it gives your enemy a -1 to hit penalty with ranged attacks if they're over 12 inches away from your unit. And now you may recognize this, as it is essentially the Alpha Legion trait with just that extra combat attrition bonus on top. So it is a buff, albeit a slight one overall for the Alpha Legion. And when you consider that the Alpha Legion trait is generally the best of the Chaos Space Marine traits, it means that for almost any Chaos Legion that you choose to play with, or that you would have considered playing with before, this is pretty much a net buff over what they currently have. For some, it's a bigger buff than others, but if you'd been considering bringing a Word Bearers or an Iron Warriors or a Night Lords list, I think that this new trait that replaces it is very much a worthwhile improvement over what they currently have, and it may well be worth thinking about bringing those Marines as Disciples of Belakor if you want to get a bit more out of them than you currently can do. On the demonic front, it's slightly trickier in my opinion, as whilst the replacement Loci is hugely powerful, it really is incredibly powerful. It means that not only can your enemy not reroll hit rolls with ranged attacks against your units, but also on top of that, that they suffer the -1 to hit if they're 12 inches away. So it really does make your demonic units unbelievably survivable as they make their way up the battlefield. That -1 to hit is great, but not being able to get rerolls on your attack rolls just means that a huge amount more misses will stay misses and cannot be then annoyingly turned into hits with captain auras or reroll command points or that kind of thing. So it can make a huge difference to the survivability of your demons. But in some situations, and I want to say Khorne and Nurgle specifically here, it does, in my opinion, take away from the potential killiness of those demonic units. And for example, if you just wanted a unit of 30 bloodletters to do a bloodletter bomb tactic, which they are very well known for, you may much rather have that reroll charge aura from their current Loki instead of the replacement Locus of Shadow ability. And similarly with Plague Bearers, they are hugely survivable with this new Locus. There's no denying that. But if you want them to actually kill anything, you may miss that Locus of Virulence, giving them that potential extra damage on their attacks. I think overall it's fair to say that these replacement abilities are always going to be an upgrade on your Chaos Space Marines, and almost always going to be worth taking over the standard Loki that your demons get. The only thing to consider is if you had a very specific plan in mind, like the above example, a unit of 30 bloodletters doing the bloodletter bomb. But for the most part, taking your demons in a Disciples of Belakor force and getting this new Locus of Shadows will give them a much better chance of surviving as they slog their way up the board to get into combat with your enemy, and also let you sit on objectives with things like Plague Bearers and really force your enemy to struggle to try and get rid of them. Because on top of that, the final thing that you get by being a Disciple of Belakor is that your troops get the objective secure rule as well. So this will really let you grab objectives, and with big 30 strong blobs of things like Plague Bearers that are now -1 to hit and your enemy can't reroll hit rolls against them, they become an incredibly difficult prospect for your enemy to get rid of. Overall, the Disciples of Belakor are looking like they have some pretty tasty little abilities to bring to the battlefield, and being able to mix and match from the numerous Demon and Chaos Marine units means that you can really take advantage of a lot of the new special rules and stratagems that you will have access to, and bring the best of both codexes together to be an incredibly sneaky, powerful force that can really get in close to your opponent without taking too much damage, withering all of that firepower that they try and pump into you, and then just move straight through their defenses with, stratagems like the one that we've seen just now, and getting past all their screening units to kill the juicy innards of your enemy's army, which to me sounds incredibly cool and an incredibly fun way to play a Chaos force. But what do you think of these rules, and do you think the Disciples of Belakor will give Chaos in some form a place back at the top tables of 40k, or is there still just too much that needs to be changed and buffed for the forces of Chaos to really get their footing back on the competitive scene? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I will catch you later, guys.